the Satan was just winning this battle. He was attacking me so hard. I was in a place of not wanting to live anymore. I didn't want to be here.
Sure.
I didn't want to live in my reality. One night, I just thought, I could take those pills. And that'd be it. I would be out of this pain. I wanted to take my life. I had my hand on those bottles, and I had those pill bottles open, and I just thought, I can take them, and then I'm out of this pain. No more. I'm out of this pain. And God would pull me back.
So today we have the privilege of hearing Kim Acklin's story, and it's a powerful story. I'm going to get to that, and you're going to enjoy it. I want to say this, we're going to continue to publish these stories, and I believe that they're the stories of lives that are being changed by the work of God. And I think it's such a privilege to see God working in dramatic ways in the lives of people. And today, Kim's story is just that. It is the story of a wife that is agonizing as she tries to care for and meet the needs of her husband, who's incredibly sick. And she's going to tell you the whole story. It's very powerful. She's a caregiver by trade. She's a nurse by trade, but she's just a wife trying to save her husband's life. That's where she's at. She ultimately faces loss, but how she processes that loss and still in the process of that's the beauty of these stories. And I think it's important for you to understand. I'm not trying to tell a story here that doesn't contain a continuation. Kim's story didn't end with happily ever after and everything worked out. That's not how life works. And so Kim is actually still dealing with the anguish of losing her husband. Who wouldn't? It's pain. If you've lost someone you love, you know how it is. And each day she's faced with new challenges, but she's facing those challenges. And even in the midst of the pain and the difficulty and the aftermath, you can still see the work of God, this thread of God's hope and grace, peppered throughout what's going on in this story. So without any further ado, I want to share with you the beautiful story that Kim Acklin has to tell. And I promise you, it's going to bless you. It's a story of courage. It's a story of compassion. And I think ultimately it's a story of dependency on God. And I think you're going to see that in this story. So stick with me and let's hear what God's doing in Kim's life.
Hi, my name is Kim Acklin, and I'm here to share a story with you guys today in hopes of hopefully helping someone else. I just wanted to start by telling you about my husband. He was a diabetic, and he had clipped a toenail. And when he did, he cut his toe. Well, it wasn't too bad. The next day, it had gotten much worse. I took him to the hospital. The toe had gotten much more infected, and they had to amputate the toe. So that kind of started a year of problems. That year led up to just a year of amputations on his foot. So at that point, this kind of ended in August. That had went on from actually December the year prior through that August. At August, he was much better. We were in the clear. He was back in a shoe. We thought, everything was great. We were getting ready to renew our vows. It was the first time in a year he was going to wear a shoe, and that was at our vow renewal. He was so excited. We renewed our vows that night. We had a beautiful ceremony, lots of people there to celebrate with us, and it was precious. That was in September. In November, on November the 12th, my husband woke up, and I had went to work, and he called me Mama. That was my nickname. And he said, Mama, I'm not feeling too good. I'm having some back pain, shoulder to back pain. And I said, well, maybe you didn't sleep well. And he said he would put heat on it, would feel better. Well, this went on through the day. That night, it was continuing to get worse. So we ended up the next morning, 2:33, somewhere around that, we ended up in the ER. Immediately, they thought he was having an aortic dissection, which it has to be attended to very quickly or you can pass from it. Well, they found out that that's not what it was. It was what they called a raging UTI. He was admitted to the hospital. So Tuesday through Thursday, that was what they were treating. On Thursday, the doctor called me. I was at the hospital. The doctor wanted to talk to me on the phone. The doctor said he has staph, MRSA, MRSA, and it's in his bloodstream. And I immediately panicked because in 2003, I lost my daddy from the same thing. She said, I feel like we're okay. We started him on vancomycin. I feel like we're in good shape. That was on Thursday night. Friday morning, I had to take my mom to respite care. My brother decided he would go sit with my husband for a while. So he called and told me he felt like he was a little bit confused. And so when I got up there, he was more confused than he had been. But I hadn't been there long, and I walked out, the doctor come back in, the doctor was there, and she had told me that my husband was septic, his platelets were critical, and that they were transferring him to St. Vincent's Infirmary into ICU, and there was doctors there waiting for us. And I said, I don't understand. Because the night before he was fine. I mean, you said that you thought this was going to work. And she said, it's just everywhere. It's all through his bloodstream and he's septic. She said, I'm so sorry. I said, well, what are you telling me? And I said, is my husband not going to make it? And she said, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he's going to make it or not. She said, he's very sick. And, but, we'll do the best we can. We're going to do the best we can to help him. They talked to me about putting him on a ventilator. He did not go on it for any type of breathing issues. He went on it because he was anxious. And my husband, if you knew him, he was a very anxious person. So they put him on it because of that reason, to just keep him calm, sedated, and they could do the testing. Found out where the infection was. It was in the top of the spine. They sent the surgeon in. This was Dr. Seal. Dr. Seal was a great physician, and he was a man of God. And so he came in, he visited with us. He said, this is where the infection is. I believe this is the best chance for him to move forward. We'll go in and operate and try to get, the infection. He said, every morning before I leave my home, I get down on my knees and I pray for God to give me the guidance and direction to make the right decisions for my patients. And that just makes a person feel so great.
Yes.
To know that this man is going to be operating on your person.
That's right.
The love of your life. And so he left, he came back just a few minutes later and said, you know what? Talking and with some of the other guys, I think this doesn't need to wait till Sunday. Yeah. We need to go ahead and get this done because, he's very sick. He might not make it till Sunday, so we need to get this done. So they did it. He did great. He did really good. Was going to remove the vent the next day. I asked them to please wait. They decided to pull it on Monday, and they did it right there with, my brother and I on each side of the bed. He did great, which very surprising, again, because my husband has high anxiety, but he did amazing. He came off of it. That night, he got he started having respiratory distress again. And I could see his sats were dropping, and he said, Mama, I can't breathe. I'm having a hard time breathing. So they got the doctor. It was a nurse practitioner. She said before she even got down the hall, she could tell he wasn't breathing well. She could hear him. And so she said, let's get him back on the vent. He had 5 surgeries total. The infection kept coming back and kept, it would just go a little bit lower and a little bit lower in the back. And then also they had to remove his spleen because that was the issue with platelets. So when they removed the spleen, the platelets came back up. And we would almost turn a corner. They would get rid of the infection for a little bit and we'd almost turn the corner. And then more infection would come back, you know. We just kept on this road for about 9 weeks. As we were going, he was continuously getting weaker, but he was fighting. I mean, 9 weeks is a long time.
Yes, it is.
You know, it's a very long time to battle something.
That's right.
But through all of that 9 weeks, you know, my husband never left. I mean, he continued to have joy. So we spent Thanksgiving there. We spent my birthday, which was December the 21st. Sweet little story about my birthday. The day before my birthday, I had walked out of the room for a minute, and he said to the nurse, "Can you come here a minute?" He motioned for her to come over there, and he asked her, he said, "Hey, what day is it?" And she said, "It's December the 20th. It's almost Christmas." And he said, "Tomorrow it's my wife's birthday."
Yeah.
And I mean, she said, "Really?" And he said, "Yeah, but I feel bad because I can't get anything for her." And she said, "Oh, she's not going to be worried about that. She's seeing that big smile, and just to know that you know it's her birthday, she's going to be happy."
Absolutely.
So I walked back in there, and immediately he goes, "Happy birthday, Mama." And I went, "You remembered my birthday?" I was like, "Oh my gosh." I said, "That's so great. And it's not even till tomorrow." And he goes, "I know that, Mama." I'm probably going to say that's the best birthday I've ever had.
Oh, that's awesome.
You know, just because my husband had been through so much and he remembered my birthday because that's the kind of man he was. Always know that God's bigger. You know, he's bigger than any medication. He's
Absolutely.
bigger than any technology.
That's right.
He can change anything at any second.
That's right.
He can change it. So I believed through those 9 weeks, you know, that he could change the things, and it changed the direction at any time. We were going in a very bad direction. We were. And Gary was getting weaker. So the infection kept coming back. I mean, they tried drain tubes the weeks prior. You know, they had tried everything to try not to have to do another surgery, but it didn't work.
Yeah.
So he said, "You said you wanted to keep fighting." So I put him on the surgery list for tomorrow night. I'm assuming that's what you still want to do. And I said, "Yes, I do." I said, "I mean, what do you think?" And he said, "Well, I mean, you know, I don't think medication's going to reach it. So I think our best bet is to do the surgery. But I will tell you this. It's very critical surgery. I don't know that he'll make it. I don't know what the days ahead will bring. But I just know that it's probably our best chance. And you want to fight? Let's fight." He was in surgery for a couple of hours. And usually when Dr. Seal came out, he was pretty upbeat, you know, and great. Everything went good. And, you know, we come out that evening and he wasn't very, I mean, he said, you know, he made through the surgery well. He lost a lot of blood, but we're giving it back. And my sister-in-law would try to ask him questions, you know, like about the tissue in his back. It's terrible. So we knew then that the quality of life for Gary was probably not going to be good, you know. But Gary had a big spirit about him, you know. He was so much joy, and he was a big cardio guy, you know. He ran for years, and then when he couldn't run anymore, he walked. And I mean, he did that no matter what he was going through. He did that. So I felt that Gary would fight.
Sure.
If he were here, he would fight. So after the surgery, or, you know, after he talked to us, he said, well, he's going to PACU. They never recovered him in PACU. They recovered him also always in ICU because they're trained to do that. But that night, I guess because he was losing blood, you know, at the time, I couldn't understand really why are they, you know, but I was just not thinking clearly, you know.
Sure.
it was a couple hours, and they were finally got him back. Everybody had went home. When I walked into the room, his blood pressure was 54/38. And I knew then we were in trouble because they were losing his pressure. And he looked at me and he said, "Mama, am I okay?" And I said, "You are great. You're good." I said, "Just try to stay calm," because his heart rate was racing.
Sure.
And he said, he just nodded his head, and the nurse said, "Why don't you go sit down and let's see if he'll calm down?" And I said, "Okay." So I went and sat down. I looked at my phone, I think, to tell Angel that it wasn't good. And I looked up, and when I looked up, he wasn't breathing. He had coded. And so I started screaming for the nurses to get back in there. And they come running to do the code, and they had called the code, and Angel knew, of course, that was his room. So she ran back and was calling my brother and sister-in-law, which I think somebody had already called them because they were on their way. And so they got up there, and they coded him twice. 9 minutes it took him the first time. Of course, during all of this, I'm just so upset, because I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
You would think after 9 weeks, why would I not expect that, But I wasn't. I just never thought he wasn't coming home. So, it was just, they called for the chaplain. I wouldn't talk to the chaplain. I said, I'm not talking to the chaplain, And, I couldn't believe what was happening, and I just wasn't accepting that he wasn't going to come through this. So they got him back, and most immediately coded again. And so it took him about 12 minutes at that point to get him back. My brother and sister-in-law talked to the doctor and, said, what's going on? I mean, what? And they said his heart's, it can't do it anymore. His heart's just, he just cannot withstand anything else. I mean, his heart is just given out, and they said, we can keep coding him, but he's not going to stay with us. And so, and of course, he just had back surgery, so that was not good to be coding him. So my brother and sister-in-law talked to me, and I asked the doctor, I said, is there anything at all that can be done? And he said, no. I went in there. Kerry was awake. He was just clear. He was so clear. I mean, clearer than he had been. And if you had to know my husband to know the anxiety my husband had, it was really bad. He had zero anxiety. None. And, I went up to him, and my sister-in-law told me, she said, you're going to have to tell him it's okay to go. He's not going to go until you tell him, because he's going to keep fighting he needs to know you're going to be okay.
Good.
So I just told him, I was so proud of him that he had fought so hard, and, he was tired, and I knew he was tired. I said, you can go be with Jesus and rest. I'm going to be okay, And he kissed me. He gave me the biggest kiss, and I knew he was telling me bye. And he told me he loved me. He said, Mama, I love you. My brother and sister-in-law reached over, talked to him. My brother said, Sis is going to be okay. We're going to make sure she's okay. You have nothing to worry about. You need to go be with Jesus. And he looked back over at me, and I just loved on him and kept telling him how much I loved him. And 5 minutes maybe we had, and he closed them pretty blue eyes. And, he went so peacefully. There was no fight at all. He was so ready, My sister-in-law said, I think if you'd have told him 2 weeks before, he would have went. He was ready. He was tired. His body was so tired. And I remember
after he passed, and we went out to the waiting room, and by then so many had gotten back up to the hospital, and I was so sick to my stomach. I just could not believe that we did not win this battle, And I just remember saying constantly, I cannot do this. I will never be able to do this. It was the hardest thing to walk out of that hospital and know I was never going to go back in there to see my husband again. He was gone.
Sure.
And that's when my journey began. My journey without my husband, truly my best friend, my person, the love of my life. I'd been married to him for 30 years, That's what I had known most of my life.
Sure.
Was him, And, he was so good to me, and he just loved me so much, and I just did not know what I was going to do, COVID was setting in shortly after this, so there was not a lot of resources out there for me to get me help,
Sure.
But I had a lot of family around me. I had friends. I had what I call my village. I mean, they were amazing. They were so good, and they loved me and held me tight, but none of them understood what I was going through, and they knew that. I mean, they did know that, and my mental state was getting worse, I functioned, though. I was functionable. I went through every day, and I would post stuff on Facebook, and I would be smiling. I would be with my people. Everything was fine, but it wasn't fine. I was in a very bad place, and I was in some very dark places. A few people had said to me, did you not ever think that Gary was not coming home? Did you ever think that? And I said, no. I never did. I never let that enter my mind, because I prayed constantly for God to intervene, for God to change the course so that he could get better.
Sure.
And again, my God is bigger than everything else. And I believed that. And I still believe that. And God did change the course. He took Gary to heaven. He just didn't heal him.
Yeah.
Where I could take him home with me.
Sure.
He still answered my prayers. Satan is on me. He's on me so big, and I'm letting him do it, As he's doing it, I'm continuously getting my husband more and more and more above God. One Sunday at church, my sister-in-law said, Kim, you're never going to get any better.
Yeah.
If you do not get God back where he belongs.
That's good.
You're just not going to get better.
It's true.
It is true. But, this was my coping mechanisms. This was the only way that I could go on every day, was to really basically keep my husband with me. The best way I could. He wasn't physically here, but I was keeping him here in every way. I was doing everything I could to keep my husband present. But the Satan was just winning this battle. He was attacking me so hard. So I started having these bad thoughts, I've never, and I've always disagreed with taking your life. I will still say I don't agree with it. I was in a place of not wanting to live anymore. I didn't want to be here.
Sure.
I didn't want to live in my reality. I was living in a reality that I wasn't happy in. Now listen, I had a lot of joy around me. I had a lot of people around me that loved me. And I had happiness all around me. But my husband wasn't here. So one night, I just thought, I could take those pills. And I mean, that'd be it. I would be out of this pain. I mean, I don't think anyone really, as much as they wanted to know and understand, but you can't. You can't until you're in that person's position.
Sure.
I wanted to take my life. I had my hand on those bottles, and I had those pill bottles open, and I just thought, I can take them, and then I'm out of this pain. No more. I'm out of this pain. And God would pull me back, and He would get Satan off of me. Talk to my brother about it. And he said, sis, we need to get you some help, So, he talked of, committing me. Let's get you some help. I wasn't going that route. It's either that or you're going to take this shrine down. You have a shrine in your home. Everywhere you look is Gary Ackland. And as great as he was, and that smile is great, but you can't get better like this.
Yeah, he's right.
This is all that you see all the time. I fought it some, but I did take some of it down. I still have a lot of pictures up, but I took some of them down. I started praying for God to please help me get my husband where he belonged. And I needed to get God back where you belong.
That's good.
God, I have to get you back where you belong, because you don't belong below my husband. That's not where you belong. You belong above everything and everyone. And until I got to that point, I could not get better. God is so good. And He works constantly in your life, and He did in mine. I mean, we're talking 2 years this past Saturday was a 2-year anniversary. Yeah. And up until just about 6 months ago, did I finally get acceptance. He was going to heaven.
Right.
And I was going to be there again one day, but it wasn't up to me.
Sure.
To make that decision of when I was going to be there. That's up to God. And I'm looking. I'm just going to tell you, my love story was a great love story. Now, right. I mean, we all have some great love stories, but I just know my love story.
Right.
And it was a good one. And did we have problems? Sure, we had problems. We weren't perfect, but we loved each other through every one of those problems.
Kim, you finished well. I mean, you took care of him and you loved him and you stood in there. Let me ask you this question. Let's shift gears. Somebody's going to be watching this and their husband's sick and they're in the hospital and they're trying to push forward. What would be the one piece of advice you would give them as they're trying to work through? Because there's plenty of people in that situation right now. What would be your advice to that person? Maybe it's a husband or a wife, one of the other getting sick. What advice would you give them as they're trying to manage health and care and figure out all that?
Well, I'll just tell you from my experience, I always thought I was in control.
Yeah.
I would tell them they're not in control.
Yeah.
God's in control. I thought I was in control. I was making all these decisions for my husband. And so I was thinking those were all the right decisions. And they were, to get him, to the next day and the next day and the next day. But, really, God was taking care of all of this. I thought I was, but it was God in control. So all of these people that are struggling today, you have to remember God is the one that's in control.
That's true.
And the outcome of this is going to be what God's will was.
That's good.
It's not up to us. what's up to us. It's then how we handle it,
Yeah.
And how we move forward. God always knows best. It's not us that knows best, but we think we do.
No, you're
you
right.
know, and it's just we don't want to let go. We want to keep them here. But I said this to you the other day because I heard you say this. I heard you preach this in a sermon one time.
Yep.
If they were given the opportunity after they had witnessed heaven,
That's right.
if they were given the opportunity to come back, they would never come back.
It's true.
And my husband wouldn't either. I mean, he's got it made. I'm also very happy for him, and it's taken me a long time to get to that point because you know what? We don't want to let go.
No.
But we just have to remember this is just a small amount of time that we have on this earth.
That's right.
But we have that eternity, and that's eternal,
That's right. That's right.
And we fail to forget that
That's
because
right.
just this we're right here, and this is where we're at now, And I'm just so I know I'm gonna be with my husband again,
That's right.
and we got so much. I mean, the hope that we have, knowing that. I mean, we know
That's right.
where we're gonna be together. And I'm still on this journey. I'm a work in progress, but what I want to say is there is hope.
Amen.
And you know what? As Christians, that's what we have. I couldn't have done it,
Yeah.
but I'm here today and I've done it,
Amen.
and it's not about me, but God has done it for me,
Amen.